You're going to find it in your system tray. Because I'm using Start All Back, I've got the system tray up here with my taskbar. And if you click on the PowerToys menu up there, you're going to find some quick access tools. And if you click on More, you can find a quick toggle for each of these tools. And if you go back and you click on the Settings app, that's going to open the main PowerToys interface. So if I just make this a little bit larger, you can see the dashboard, which shows you all of your utilities that you've enabled with the disabled modules here at the bottom. You've got some general settings like checking for updates, if you want this to be run as administrator, some appearance settings and that type of thing. And then you've got the actual tools, which are grouped in different categories. But like I said, I'm not going to be going through each and every tool. I'm just going to highlight those that I use on a day-to-day basis. So the first one being PowerToys Run. So what PowerToys Run does is it basically gives you a run box if you use the activation shortcut. And if you're familiar with other operating system, then this looks quite familiar because you can now launch apps using PowerToys Run. So you can search for anything. If I want to open Steam, for example, and I do a search for Steam, then I can open the Steam application by just doing a search for it here. The other thing you can do with this is you can use this as a calculator. So if I just go and type 10 plus 10, it's going to show me the answer for 10 plus 10. And if I click on this answer here, it's going to copy the number to the clipboard. So if I've copied that and I just open a new text document, if I open that and then paste, it's going to paste the answer. So in the past, I've always been used to using the built-in calculator in Windows, but since I've started using PowerToys, whenever I want to do a quick calculation, I just open the run box and then do that calculation, and then I can just easily copy the answer to the clipboard as well. Now, if I clear this, you can see that there is some plugin keywords as well. So you can use PowerToys Run for a bunch of different things as well, and you can look at the documentation for that. But since I've started using PowerToys Run, I've found that I do not use the start menu in Windows that much anymore, because whenever I'm thinking of what I want to do or what app I want to launch, I just open PowerToys Run, search for the app that I want to open, then press enter, and that's going to launch the app. And if you want to close this without launching an application or anything, then you can just press escape and that's going to close PowerToys Run. So PowerToys Run is definitely one of the tools that I use the most on a day-to-day basis in this suite of utilities. And if you're not happy with this activation shortcut, you can just click on the edit icon there and then you can create your own keyboard shortcut by just pressing a combination of keys that you want to use to open PowerToys Run. The next tool that I also use a lot, it's called Always on Top, and what this does is it puts a window on top of other windows so you'll always see what's inside of it. So this might seem like a small thing, but it's actually very useful once you know how to use it. So as an example, if I've got this text document window here and I want that to always be on top, I can just select it, then press the keyboard shortcut, which is Windows key Control and T, and it's going to get this border around it, and I can still move this window, but if I click on the PowerToys Run window, you see that it doesn't display above the pinned window here. This is going to stay on top of any other windows. And I found this to be very useful when I've only got one screen that I'm using and I need to look at one document or window and type or work in another window that I have pinned here. So this is very useful. And if you close that window, it's obviously not going to be pinned anymore, but that's also one of the most useful modules in PowerToys. The next one is Fancy Zones. So Fancy Zones is almost like a tiling window manager. It just gives you some more control over how you can use the space on your screen. So the first thing that you're going to do here is to launch the layout editor. So if I open that, now I can choose the monitor that I'm working on. This is my main monitor, which I'm screen recording right now. So here we've got some templates that we want to use when we activate Fancy Zones. So you've got some presets here, but as an example, let's create a new layout and I'm going to just call it custom layout 1. We'll keep it on grid and then I'm going to create that. So as an example, let's say that I wanted to split zone 3 here. If I just go ahead and click, it's going to split it and I can then use these sliders to make that window bigger or smaller. Let's just basically make it the same size and let's just go ahead and save this and then choose our custom layout 1 as the layout that we want to use when we use Fancy Zones. So I'm going to select that and then just exit out of the editor here. So now the way that you use this is you'll see that you need to hold down the left shift key to activate zones while dragging a window. If I hold down left shift and then click and drag this window, these Fancy Zones appear and I can put this inside of one of these windows. So as an example, let's move this to the first window, then it's going to stay there. Let's move my VMware workstation to one of these windows down here. And then let's also put some other windows here. Let me just open to File Explorers, hold down left shift, and then click and drag this window and place that inside of that as well. Now I've got this layout that I created and I can see all of these windows and I can work inside each one of them at the same time and just have access to a whole bunch of different information on the same screen. And then once I want to use one of these full screen again, I can just maximize it and it's going to take all of the space on the computer. So you can create your own layouts that's going to work for you. And like I said, this is basically like a tiling window manager, but it's not. It basically makes it a little bit easier for you to create your own layouts here and then also switch between these layouts depending on what you want to do. Then the next module I also use a lot is the color picker. So that's under system tools. And if we go to color picker, you can see that it is enabled and it's also got an activation shortcut that you can use here. But most of the time I forget the shortcut and all of these shortcuts, to be honest with you. What I normally just do is click on the PowerToys icon up there, then select the color picker, which launches it. And then you can see on my mouse cursor, wherever I have my mouse cursor, it shows me the color and then also the hex code or the color code for that color. So as an example, let's go to something else on the screen, like that orange inside of the PowerToys window. If I now just click on that color, then it gives me the color that I just selected with the hex code, the RGB code and HSL. And you can now just easily copy this color and then use it in your designs. For example, when I'm creating thumbnails or I need a specific color in video editing, or even when I'm developing apps or scripts, then this is very useful. And from this window here, you can also just click on pick again, and then you can pick the next color, copy that to the clipboard, and then you can use it in your designs. The next utility is the text extractor. The text extractor does exactly what it says in the name. It copies text from anywhere on the screen. So this can be a PDF file, this can be an image. I normally always just click on the icon in the system tray, then select the text extractor, and it basically opens the same interface as a snipping tool. Then you can just go and select the text that you want to copy. So for example, you can see that it's recommended to use the snipping tool instead of the text extractor module. It seems to be built into the snipping tool. But if I let go of the mouse and I select this text, it's going to be automatically copied to the clipboard. So if I now open a text document and I press Ctrl and V to paste, you can see that I have the text that I just copied from the screen in this notepad file here. And this is actually quite useful even if you're not just extracting one sentence at a time. For example, I'm pretty sure if I take a screenshot of this whole screen here and then also paste that, it is going to extract most of the text that I had on the screen here, but obviously it won't be formatted exactly like you see here. It's just going to be plain text exactly like you can see in this notepad file here. But that's also very useful, especially if you have an image that has text that you obviously can't copy. So those 5 modules are definitely the ones that I use the most, I would say almost on a day-to-day basis. But I do want to give some honorable mentions to the following ones, and that's going to be PowerToys Awake, which basically just keeps your PC awake and on demand. And then the very last one is if we go to File Management, you've got an image resizer. And if you want to resize images and make them smaller or larger, can do that with the image resizer, and I'll show you how to do that quickly. So let's just say, for example, that we've got these 2 blue gradient images here. I can select both of them or only one of them, but if they're selected and I right click on them and I then go to resize with image resizer, if I click on that option, it's going to prompt me, how do I want to resize them? Do I want to make them smaller, medium, large, or for a phone? Or you can even enter custom dimensions. For this example, let's just make it small. Then you've also got some other options here, which I normally just leave on the default. And then if you click on resize, it's going to keep the originals, and then it's going to give you the resized images as well. So those are definitely my top picks in PowerToys. And like I said at the start of this video, depending on what you use your computer for, some of these tools are going to be absolutely essential for you and others are just going to be useless. But the ones that I mentioned in this video are definitely the ones that I find myself using the most at the time of recording this video, and I really do hope that you found some sort of value in this video as well. If you did, please give it a like, share your thoughts about PowerToys in the comments down below, and I also want to give a special shout out to all of my YouTube members. Thanks to everyone for supporting the channel, I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to all of you guys soon.